There's no wine or whiskey in these oak barrels. They're filled with beer. A century ago, all beer was stored in wooden casks. Of course, stainless steel changed all that. But now wooden vessels are making a comeback. Barrels that once held wine are being reused to age beer. The resulting concoction is dubbed the latest frontier of beer innovation.
It's not something that we're really used to. The first time we try it, a lot of people pucker, but it's that refreshingness, that acidity is something that a lot of people really love.
Mike Siegel leads the beer innovation team at Goose Island in Chicago. The brew house was the first to experiment with bourbon barrel aging in 1992. Since then, Goose Island's barrel-aged beer has become so popular, they just leased a 3-acre warehouse to expand production. The Sour Sisters are Goose Island's latest barrel-aged innovation. These bubbly beers feature tart flavors with fruity notes, all blended by the woody aroma from the barrels.
Sour beers have become popular here in the United States in the last few years. We've been doing it at Goose Island since 2007. We started with just a few barrels.
In the past 6 years, production of the Sour Sisters jumped from 100 barrels to 2,500. According to Eric Ponce, Goose Island's expert for all beers barrel-aged, there's no real formula for barrel aging.
Depending on what was aged in these barrels, we kind of play off those tones. If it's a really deep, chewy red wine, has a lot of tannins in it, then we want to brew a beer that's going to be able to hold up to those flavors of the wine.
The wooden casks are sourced from wineries in California, France, and Italy, where they once held Pinot Noirs and Cabernet Sauvignon. Each of the Sour Sisters get a unique base beer.
Madame Rose is a brown ale, Juliet is a rye ale, Lolita is a Belgian-style pale ale. All the Sour Sisters get a fruit addition. Madame Rose gets cherries, Lolita gets raspberries, Juliet gets blackberries.
The fruit is picked from McClure Farms in southwest Michigan, 100 miles from the city.
So we're really at the mercy of when the fruit is available. This week, for instance, we're filling Madame Rose barrels because the cherries were literally harvested last week.
It's all hands on deck. 300 barrels must be filled before the cherries start to rot.
People ask us why we still use fresh fruit because a lot of other breweries are using extracts. But once you taste that beer, everybody just gets a smile on their face and says this is why we do it this way.
After the fruit comes a cocktail of 5 different types of yeast and bacteria. Then the barrels are filled to the brim with beer, then corked and fermented. After a few extra months, the barrels go through a final round of tasting. Then they're blended together and bottled. Prices range, depending on the distributor, but the most recent vintage of Madame Rose sold at an average of $30 a bottle.
It's a very laborious task. The blending, the pouring, the moving in and out of barrels, all add up to really a higher price point.